Hello, scientists of Reddit. What's a scary science fact that the public knows nothing about? Scientific literature conclusion on Alzheimer's disease and other neurodegenerative diseases in general is that the diseases start decades before the obvious symptoms and that we need to treat them at this stage. When you exhibit obvious symptoms, it's too late. Your brain is already mush. If you get diagnosed with Alzheimer's at 65, you had the disease since at least your early 40s, and you experienced very mild symptoms but didn't notice, and your brain fought like hell to compensate the deficit. When you get the diagnosis, your brain is already very severely damaged and will never recover from that deficit. We now have a Discord. Check out the server in the link in the description. Story 2. If your dog swims in a lake after receiving a spot on flea treatment, it absolutely decimates the invertebrate population. A large dog swimming in 8 Olympic swimming pools worth of water soon after treatment will leach enough neurotoxin to unalive 50% of the lake's invertebrate population within 48 hours. There's some awareness of this, but it's not being taken seriously enough. Story 3. Prions. Misfolded proteins that cause a cascade of protein misfoldings that lead to amyloid plaque buildups, resulting in uncontrollable neurodegeneration that is fatal in 100% of cases within 2 years. There is no cure. We don't understand what causes it. We don't understand the mechanism of the misfolding cascade. We don't even fully understand the structure of the misfolded proteins. It could, in theory, happen to anyone at any time, and there's no way to tell until you start showing symptoms, at which point you might have 18 months to live, if you're lucky, the last 6 of which will be intensely unpleasant. I probably said a word in there wrong, and also neurodegeneration, that's so hard to say. But I agree, these sorts of things are scary. It feels like rabies, right? Like rabies, when you start showing symptoms, it's already way too late. That kind of thing is just, I don't know. Story 4. Antibiotics have been abused and misused for so long that various bacteria strains have started to get resistance to them. What used to be a treatable infection might soon become deadly because we are unable to treat it with the antibiotics we have today. There is research to try and find other ways to treat antibiotic-resistant bacteria. But until then, please use prescribed antibiotics until they are finished, not until you feel better. If unused, do not flush them down the toilet or put them in the bin. Give it to a pharmacy so they can discard them correctly, and only use antibiotics when necessary. Some countries give them willy-nilly while others are more conservative. Story 5. Everyone knows about scurvy, but the reason it's so terrifying is usually less known. You see, scar tissue is not permanent. The process to build and maintain scar tissue is constantly ongoing. When you become vitamin C deficient, your scar tissue starts being reabsorbed by your body, opening up any and all old wounds. If you have ever had surgery, those internal incisions will open back up. Fortunately, it doesn't take a lot of vitamin C, and it's abundant in our food sources. But it's still a little creepy that you could just start falling apart without it. Story 6. Helium. Fun for party balloons? Everybody likes a squeaky voice. Except helium is a vital component of various high-tech devices such as MRIs. Helium is also light enough that Earth's gravity cannot contain it, and we are running out. Not today, not tomorrow, but we are frivolously wasting it when we should be jealously hoarding it. And eventually, we won't have any left, and a lot of our wonderful technology will suddenly stop working. Story 7. There's a gravitational anomaly in space called the Great Attractor, which is pulling everything within the Virgo and Hydra Centaurus superclusters towards it. It lies 150 to 250 million light-years from the Milky Way, which itself is being pulled towards it too. The scary part is that relative to us, this anomaly lies within the same plane as our own galaxy, making it very difficult to observe. Essentially, we have almost no concrete idea of what it is. I don't know if this is scary. It's kinda cool, to be honest. A fun little science mystery to figure out that doesn't actually really affect us. Right now, at least. I don't know, it seems like just one step below heat death of the universe in terms of, cosmic fears. Story 8. On the flip side of the Great Attractor is the Boots Void. The Boots Void, sometimes called the Great Void, is a huge, spherical region of space that contains very few galaxies. It's approximately 700 million light-years from Earth and located near the constellation Boots, which is how it got its name. The supervoid measures 250 million light-years in diameter, representing approximately 0.27% of the diameter of the observable universe, which itself is a daunting 93 billion light-years across. Its volume is estimated at 236,000 MCP cubed, making it the largest known void in the universe. At first, astronomers were only able to find 8 galaxies across the expanse, but further observations revealed a total of 60. Now, while that might seem like a lot, it would be like stumbling upon only 60 objects across a region larger than continental United States. And that's just in 2 dimensions. According to astronomer Greg Aldering, the scale of the void is such that, if the Milky Way had been in the center of the Boots void, we wouldn't have known that there were other galaxies until the 1960s. Looking at the volume of the Boots void, it should contain about 10,000 galaxies, when considering that the average distance between galaxies elsewhere in the universe is just a few million light years. But the question is, why and how this void came to be. There hasn't been enough time since the universe began for mere gravitational forces to clear out a space of that size. There's a theory that suggests that supervoids are caused by the intermingling of smaller mini-voids, like soap bubbles coming together. But a more, maybe creepier explanation is that the Boots void could be the result of an expanding Kardashev 3 scale civilization. As the colonization bubble expands outwards from its home system, the civilization dims each star, and subsequently each galaxy, by blanketing them in a Dyson shell. This might also explain why the void has such a nice spherical shape. Oh, and also, we're seeing a snapshot of the void 700 million years ago. A lot could have happened in 700 million years that we just cannot see or know due to the inherent speed of light. Now this is spooky space stuff that is spooky. The idea that a civilization more advanced than our own could be out there, ooh. And also somehow creating this huge void, I say somehow because I don't understand it, but astronomers have a better idea, I guess. Also, Boots, probably not the correct pronunciation. There's an umlaut on top of the second O, but I just do my best. I speak English. That's it. Story 9. If you live in the Netherlands and your house is older than, let's say, 100 years and you have not renovated your plumbing, chances are fairly high that you can get lead poisoning. It is impossible for water treatment companies to pinpoint where they are and how many, and many building plans do not include the plumbing schematics. So check your pipes for lead. They can do harm, especially to children. Story 10. Cancer geneticist here. Most cases of cancer that are sequenced generally just denote the prognosis, or how long a person has to live, rather than treatment options. People always say, let's cure cancer. However, this simplifies cancer as though it is only one disease. It's far more complicated than that. I studied at one of the largest cancer hospitals in the world, where the motto is to make cancer history, but the only obtainable goal is to make it chronic. We study and research as much as possible, but every cancer requires different research, and unfortunately the powers that be often prohibit funding and proficient research. It's work I am passionate about, but also a broken system that is infuriating to work in. Story 11. In the UK, about 17% of people have fetal alcohol syndrome. As much as 17% of us are developmentally disabled simply because, prior to the late 90s, a large proportion of British mothers drank during pregnancy, 41%. Thankfully, the prevalence rate has been falling fast since the late 90s, when all this research was published. But it's terrifying to see how much of an effect fetal alcohol syndrome has on society. Story 12. A repeat of an earlier post, but it fits so well. The original nuclear bombs leveled the cities they detonated over, yet they are considered puny by today's standards. The most powerful nuclear bomb ever created, the Tsar Bomba, had an explosive yield 3,000 times more powerful than the original nuclear bombs, and its power was calculated to be more than 10 times the combined power of every single munition used in World War II. That includes every bullet, every grenade, every artillery shell fired, every bomb dropped, and of course, the 2 nuclear bombs. It was detonated 4 kilometers from the ground over the remote Severny Island, yet still completely destroyed towns within a couple hundred kilometers of the blast, and broke windows as far away as Copenhagen, Denmark. The shockwave from the blast circled the globe 9 times. The plane that dropped it was given a 50-50 chance of survival, yet the bomb was originally designed to be twice as powerful. Look, not to sound like a hippie, but I don't get it. Why do we need these bombs? What's the point here? What's the end game? Yes, let us destroy our enemy. That will help us conquer the land that becomes unusable. So it's not that. So it's just sending a message? I don't know. Sounds like high school bully behavior to me, but bombs that, what's the point? It's just, I don't know. Story 13. Soil science adjacent researcher here. We are degrading, polluting, and losing our topsoil at such a rate that we may not be able to produce enough food to feed everyone within 50 to 60 years, let alone what impacts climate change may bring to bear on our food supply. and the US government's crop insurance programs and incentives all reinforce the bad practices while discouraging regenerative practices. These bad policies are extremely hard to change because of lobbying from the major agribusiness companies, who make money off of these short-sighted policies. Our food supply is further threatened by our agricultural overdependence on aquifer water, which is not being replenished, making it an unsustainable source of water. If the aquifers are overdrawn, depleted, or polluted, we hit a hard wall of water scarcity, and we will have no backups to address the problem with. The drawdown of the aquifers also causes land subsidence, which causes costly infrastructure and building damage. The general public does not realize the impending crisis that will be caused by the confluence of these factors. Story 14. There's a solar event known as a CME, or coronal mass ejection. It occurs very frequently on a cosmic timescale. Every few decades to centuries, there's a decently sized one. Why are they scary? A CME is a massive burst of radiation, easily able to fully envelop the Earth in its path, and it's the equivalent of a non-stop EMP barrage. The last time a big one hit Earth was when we had telegraph lines for communications, and they spontaneously caught fire. In today's world, with everything running on electricity, when the next big one hits, we'll have at most a few days warning, and it would be a literal apocalypse movie scenario, with planes going down due to their whole electrical system frying, nobody's vehicle starting, untold billions in fire damage would wreak havoc everywhere, and the machines we depend on to help would be similarly fried. Some stuff would be unaffected, being parked in deep, concrete-roofed parking garages and the like, but our entire infrastructure would be useless for years. It would literally send us into a mini dark age while people try to get things working again. Recovery would take decades to centuries. Story 15. Botox is made from botulinum toxin. This toxin is produced by the bacterium Clostridium botulinum and is considered to be one of the most poisonous, lethal substances known to mankind. The toxin is a neurotoxin that blocks nerve signals to muscles. Consequently, it prevents muscles injected with Botox from contracting, tensing, so they become weak or paralyzed, thus improving the appearance of wrinkles and fine lines. Fortunately though, Botox is only injected in small, targeted doses, and is considered extremely safe as long as it's made and provided by a licensed professional. This is just like humans, you know? We find something incredibly dangerous and, well, okay, that's it. It's just incredibly dangerous. And we use it for what? To make the wrinkles go away. Take that, nature. Story 16. Humans rely on evaporating sweat to stay cool. If humidity gets too high, relatively low heat can unalive humans. The equivalent of 95 Fahrenheit or 35 Celsius at 100% relative humidity can unalive even healthy humans. This is called a wet bulb event. By 2050, scientists predict multiple wet bulb events in the North China Plain. Approximately 400 million people live in the North China Plain. This one sucks. That one is genuinely really scary because it's something that's like humans don't have humidity detectors, and it's probably something you don't realize is happening until it's too late. Unless it does feel really hot, then it might. People actually probably know if it feels really hot. So if any of you know, leave it in the comments so I can stop being scared about this. Story 17. Our food is becoming less nutritious. Plants take in CO2 gas and convert that into carbohydrates through photosynthesis. The increase in atmospheric CO2 concentration we have caused means that plants are producing more carbohydrates, sugars, and structural carbs like cellulose. However, the mineral, micronutrient, and protein content of plants is not increasing. Plants today contain more carbs than plants 100 years ago generally. This may be a contributing factor to the obesity epidemic, since more total calories need to be consumed in order to reach total nutrient requirements. Story 18. I've got 3 for you. 1. Rabies. Once symptomatic, rabies has a nearly 100% fatality rate. The only options are the rabies vaccine and immunoglobulin therapy, which again must be administered before any symptoms. 2. Gamma ray bursts, henceforth referred to as GRBs. GRBs are a rare phenomenon emitted from the poles of rapidly spinning supernovae and hypernovae. In the event of a direct hit from suitably close, which is actually really far, all life on Earth would be wiped out. The facing side would be annihilated instantly, while the trailing side would die quickly due to the conditions on Earth no longer being suitable to support life. And there is absolutely nothing we can do about it. 3. Runaway global warming. There are many stores of greenhouse gases, namely carbon dioxide and methane, all over the place. but the conditions required to keep those gases trapped are delicate. The worst part? It may already be too late to stop it. Even if humanity immediately ceased all greenhouse gas emissions and put every single resource we have into carbon sequestration. Story 19. There's this phenomenon called cosmic horizon, I think, which says that due to the accelerating expansion of the universe, a curtain-like horizon closes in on us, making it unable to see anything beyond it, therefore making it impossible to ever get there or share information with a place beyond it. This will take place when none of us are here anymore, but the thought of an event horizon like from a black hole closing in on this world and every part of the universe makes me feel scared. Story 20. The universe might be metastable and at any moment a sphere of influence may spread. This can occur anywhere without warning. The sphere will spread and inside of it will literally rewrite all of physics and chemistry. This can make life impossible inside. Literally an atom that is part of you can do this at any time. Your dog can become a sphere of influence. Or your carpet, even the atmosphere. And there is absolutely no way to stop it. Story 21. Here's a few scary medical science facts regarding CPR that you won't often hear in your first aid or CPR class. I only learned this stuff after schooling to become an EMT. What's the success rate of CPR? The average person assumes 75% or greater. In reality, it's barely 10. It's one of the first things they told us in training, because all new people have way too high of an expectation of the effectiveness of CPR. It can be very depressing when you're doing everything you were trained and aren't getting the results you think you should be getting. The time from collapse to administration of a shock via an AED is absolutely paramount. They say the chances of survival drop 10% per minute. Oh, and rescue breaths. If you're not being very, and I mean very, careful, you'll cause gastric dissension. You'll literally be blowing up their stomach and they will vomit. Then there's the cracks and crackles. If done right, it'll sound and feel like you're breaking every rib in little old lady Nelson's chest. You're likely not, it's cartilage and other bits shifting. Although if you're a bit too vigorous, you may very well break a rib or two, but hey, they're already dead, so it doesn't matter. They'd rather be alive with a broken rib than dead. Story 22. There are some destinations in space that are considered dead ends, where the expansion of the universe between you and them is so great that even traveling at light speed, you'll never reach your destination. Worse, you can't turn back after a certain point either, because home is receding faster than you can fly to. You're just trapped in the endless void between two unreachable destinations forever, and no one will ever be able to reach you for the exact same reason. Okay, I'm not personally scared by this, but I don't know, someone might be. Captain Kirk?